Hello everybody. I've been meaning to make a video like this for a few years now, maybe 2 or 3 years, but I've always seen, a few people give their proper opinions regarding Osu, just what the game means to them and how they feel about what they've achieved. And I always thought, it'd be pretty interesting to make one of these videos myself. I've been, in and out of the top 100 since 2021, so 4.5 years. And I've been playing the game since 2017, so it's been almost 9 years now. So I think a good place to begin would to just go to my profile. So you can see I've been playing since September 2017. Peaked in rank earlier this year actually, and yeah, I've just if you go down to my play history, you can see that my interest for the game has always kind of been waning. So when I started, um, I was really into the game because it was awesome. Something that I really liked about Osu always was the fact that you just have a rank and you know exactly how good you are. I think that was really what kind of drew me in and what draws people in generally, I feel like, in the sense of how, the game can be very competitive in that aspect, especially if you have friends that are playing, then you guys can compete for like ranking or top plays. So I thought just the amount of numbers involved with Osu has always been something that I've appreciated, and even I appreciate now. But as you can see here, my interest has always just been kind of weird. It's been very up and down. I've had bouts of inactivity, mainly from like this huge kind of year or 11 months where I didn't play the game. Then from in all of 2022 and 2023, I was fairly inactive. I was really busy with school and relationships, and um, I didn't really have much interest in the game. Uh, as you can see in late 2023, early 2024, I played quite a lot, but then again, back to it just being inconsistent heading into 2025, where I haven't really had 1 month where I've been super active. Like, I was pretty active in summer because I was on break and I had a lot of free time. But generally, even if you take into consideration that I started playing offline, maybe here in February of 2021, I spent quite a lot of time playing offline, and since then, it's been not necessarily my preferred way of playing the game, but I definitely, I don't really start any sessions online. But regardless, I'd say that a lot of my time actually going for scores or playing hard maps is done online. So if I had to give an estimate for my playtime, I have 1,017 hours on Bancho. I would say you can, I give or take, have 600, 700 hours offline. And I don't have a lot of time on private servers or Mekosu, so you can basically round it off to 1,800, 1,900 hours, under 2,000. But uh, across this much time, it's not less, it's not a lot though. And I think that's where my first kind of pivotal point when it comes to talking about the game comes in, where I feel like a lot of people put in a lot, and I mean a lot of time into Osu, where you will see people who have signed up in 2022 or 2021, and they will have, 2,000, 3,000 hours just on Bancho. And I feel like that is one of the major things that I have a gripe with when it comes to this game and the state of it now is I feel like a lot of people are very misguided when it comes to what makes them better at the game. Where you can go as far back as, 2012, even 2011, like way before I started playing. When I was like what? In 2012 I was 6. So, you know, you can go that far back and you will still see people say, which is true to a certain extent, that playing more is the best way to get good at the game, which I agree with. But I feel like what a lot of people fail to understand is the latent aspect of Osu. I feel like there is a specific limit that everyone has, and I feel like it exists whether or not you've played the game before, if you've played it for thousands of hours, if you've only played it for a little bit. I feel like that potential exists for everybody, and doing things like playing more and trying to optimize how you play and getting newer equipment and newer monitors and better tablets and better keyboards can certainly help you reach that upper threshold, maybe even push it up a little bit. But I feel like there is an absolute limit that everyone has, and I think that is something that a lot of people don't really realize. Like, I'm not trying to be kind of, kind of hopeless or being kind of, saying that you shouldn't try to get better, because obviously you should. But I feel like what a lot of people do wrong is they put so much time into unnecessary facets of the game. Like, many people that I've known personally will, you know, try to optimize specific elements of their skill set. Like, oh, I need to improve my tapping, so I'm going to start playing, maps that are like 180 BPM, then 190 BPM, and then 200 BPM, which is fine. But I feel like a lot of these things, which people spend so much time trying to refine, you can just improve by having kind of a reductionist approach regarding the game where you just play it. And I think having this kind of, just brute forcing your way through the game and just playing can help some people. Admittedly, it might not be the best for other people who might have one huge glaring flaw in their game, like, oh, their aim is really bad or they can't play ARs above 10. But I generally feel like this over-reliance on trying really hard to optimize how you play the game is really stupid. Because and this ties into another issue that I have with the game. Osu isn't like other video games, other esports or other games where you might have such a concrete ranking system. They're way more multiplayer than Osu will ever be. Osu is fundamentally and will always just be a single player game. You are playing against yourself, and that's basically it. For all I care, this number doesn't exist. This number doesn't exist. This number does, though. And I feel like a lot of people try to solve, quote unquote, solve Osu using formulas or methods, if you want to say that, that might apply or work better with other games like League of Legends or Valorant, which don't really work here. And I feel like Osu is a lot simpler than those games in the sense that it is, to me at least, it seems a lot simpler on it's a lot simpler to see how to improve, and it's a lot simpler to see if you yourself are improving, because in those other games like League and Valorant, it depends on their situational awareness. Are you playing with your friends, or are you playing against random people? There's stuff like ping, there's stuff like there's just, like, I can't really think off the top of my head because I don't really play any games like that, but there's a lot of elements that go into a game like Valorant, right? Or a game like CSGO, or a game like League. Osu, you can see, like, if I set two scores on this Can-Do, one of them is a B rank that is 88%, and one of them is an A rank that's 93%. I can see very objectively that one of these scores is better than the other. Sure, I might have done different on other parts of the map, like maybe on this run, the 93% run, maybe I missed, I got a lot of my misses on the hard part of the map. And maybe on my B rank, I missed kind of throughout, but I did very good on the hard part of the map. Ultimately, it doesn't really matter because this is something objective, right? Again, with the numbers, the accuracy, the miscount, the PP, everything is very objective. It is not up to your own interpretation whether or not you did better on a score as opposed to someone else, or even a different score of yours. So that's why I feel like it is very easy for you to figure out if what you're doing is actively helping you or if it's stagnating you, or in some instances, things can make you worse. If you change your area for no reason, if you decide to, copy a top player's tapping style or something like that, all of these things can make you worse at the game, which isn't good. And I feel like so many people gonna have this sunken cost kind of thing where, they've put so much time into, let's say, maybe buying a keyboard. This used to happen a lot back when Whitecat was very big and the HyperX keyboard was super popular. I had one too, but I saw so many people switch from keyboards that they were completely fine with in favor of that because they saw top players or other people or maybe even their friends playing with that keyboard, and they found it less comfortable. Maybe maybe it would lead to them fatiguing easier, but they would still stick with it because that is what other people are doing. So I feel like that is my first issue with how people treat Osu now, where there's a lot less kind of introspection, where you look more towards what other people are doing, and you try to, make connections with that to your own game. And you're trying to see, okay, well, if that guy's doing that, and I'm not really good at what he's doing, then maybe I should do what he's doing so I can get good at what he's doing. It's a bit weird to say, but this kind of weird mental loop that people end up getting stuck in is what ultimately I think leads to so many Osu players just stagnating. And I did just say like 5 minutes ago or a few minutes ago that I feel like everyone does have kind of an innate potential that they need to fulfill, or they don't need to. It's up to them. But I feel like you can stagnate way earlier than that if you do things that actively weaken the quality of your performance, if that makes any sort of sense. So I thought it would also be interesting to just look through the screenshots folder that I have on this computer. So I believe, yeah, we're gonna be in Paint for this, but I believe, yeah. So I've only had this Osu since November of 2022. So a lot of screenshots are basically lost forever, which does make me fairly sad, but it's okay. So at this point of the game, at this point in time, sorry, I didn't really care much about Osu. I used to play it on and off. As you can see, a lot of these scores, well, you can't really see unless I expand them, but a lot of these scores are like really weird. Like this is back when no one was playing this map. My name was still this, which is great. But I was honestly very, very bored with the game. I thought it was a huge waste of time. And at the time, I was thinking in a thought process which isn't too uncommon, which again leads to the argument that I had regarding Osu and whether it's an esports or whether you can really call it a multiplayer game, is that many people, especially those who might be higher ranked or better at the game, sometimes fall into this kind of infinite loop where they think that Osu's a big waste of time, and that they would much rather have been better at a game that was maybe more lucrative in both the sense of it being more popular and the potential for you to make that your primary source of income, that being your job. Where I feel like these games that I've mentioned, Valorant, League, all of these games, you can earn a living off of if you're truly exceptional. Like if you're in the top 100 for all of these games, you're probably signed to like a roster, or you're a streamer and you're making a lot of money. But when it comes to Osu, I feel like there's only 2 or 3 people that have Osu as their main source of income. And it's very easy for you to, succeed in Osu and just think to yourself like, man, I kind of wish I was this good at another game. And I understand because, I back then, back in late 2022, I thought the exact same. Where, maybe it was a bit proud of me, but I would see that I was, setting good scores on these maps, and I would just wish to myself, I'd be like, man, I kind of wish I was this good at maybe a more useful quote-unquote game. And that kind of thought process you just can't have when it comes to Osu, because as I've said, it is... Oh, this is the same screenshot. It is not like other video games. It is not an esports. You cannot extrapolate Osu into, something that it isn't. If Osu was, for instance, a game which was ultra popular and was an industry, then firstly, it'd be way harder to be exceptional at it because there'd be other people. I still think that the best Osu player of all time has never played the game. It's just some random guy somewhere that will never install the game and he has no idea, and he is the single best player of all time. And if Osu was more popular, then there'd be a lot more of these people that never played the game that would have ended up playing the game. And then you see where I'm going, where you become less good if that were the case. So there's that. So you can't really say that, like if I say here right now and I say, okay, I'm rank 49. man, I wish Osu, or man, I wish I was like the 49th best Valorant player or 49th best League player. Like, yeah, like maybe I could be, but there's no guarantee that the skill that I possess right now would translate to the same rank if Osu was a game that was like that. So I think that's a pretty wasteful, it's a very negative way of thinking about Osu, I feel like there's more things that you can kind of have gripes with when it comes to the state of the game or what the game means. But yeah, so at the time, like, I was playing just random maps. Like, my name was Lantis Solo Star at this point. So almost 3 whole years ago, I was playing these maps. I believe at the time I was still pretty high ranked. I was in the top 100 for sure. I don't know about top 50, but the next few months, next few years, year or so, it just kind of slipped away like that. I was stuck just playing random maps. Like, I don't even know what's happening here. I was playing like DT. It was Ray Changed Glorious Crown. If you go a bit further in, however, you'll see that I eventually started playing more. Oh, these are actually out of order, which is weird. Okay. Anyway, so if you go a bit closer to present day, there you go. All right. Now we're like in the middle of 2024. So I was taking the game, not more seriously, but I wasn't really thinking about it in any way. At this point in time, Osu surprisingly meant the least to me, I think, that it ever has across the past 8 years. But I used that to help me because, I just started I just started playing everything that I wanted to play. I was getting good scores, I was getting PP even, like you can see. I think I got 18k, 17k PP here. Hence the 10 screenshots. But it's like that image of like the two guys on the bus, and one of them is like staring at like a mountain and he's sad, and the other is staring at the sunset and he's happy. I feel like that can really much describe how what Osu means. So now we get closer to present day. Uh, this period of time was the best I've ever played Osu in my life. I reached rank 20. I was doing great on all kinds of maps. It wasn't just farm maps. And it was here where I'd say I probably had the most simplistic relationship with the game. The one that was most indicative of how I felt when I started, where I didn't really care about my ranking. I didn't care about what other people were doing. I used to play the game because I thought it was really fun. And I think that is just the single most imperative association that you should have with the game. Is it fun or is it not? Because when the game isn't fun, then you are not going to play good. And when the game is fun, you are going to play good. At least that's how it's always been for me, right? Where the periods of time where, I would get on Osu and I'd kind of feel excited to play this is not a good score, but I'd play the best that I could. I wouldn't feel like what I'm doing is a task. I wouldn't necessarily feel deterred if I saw someone, playing better than me, playing worse than me. I would just play the game. It would exist in a vacuum, which is how I think Osu should exist for everybody. It is a single player game disguised as a multiplayer game, and I think that it would be better for everyone if they stop trying to. Okay, well, that's kind of funny. If they stop trying to, overcomplicate it. I feel like a lot of people take Osu for something that it isn't. So here's me reaching top 30 for the first time. And yeah, like at this moment in time, like I was very happy about this, but that wasn't the main reason why I was playing. I was playing because I was playing the best I could, and I feel like when you do something good, most of the time you're having fun. So I feel like all of this analyzing and overcomplicating things and emphasis on, oh, you should first focus on your fundamentals and then go to reading and then maybe be a tournament player or then like find your niche. Like no, like it's really not. I don't think it's that intricate of a thing. I feel like Osu is really simple if you just look at it and you play it at least how I think it should be played. So now if we go to present day, it is October of 2025. I'm just got done with a pretty busy part of semester. I had a bunch of exams, and OWC is, it's upcoming. Well, I'm pretty sure qualifiers are in 2 weeks. And even though I've moved, I'm now here. I haven't flag changed, and I don't think I ever will. So that means that whenever I feel like it, I can just play OWC for these guys. So a few of my friends were like, "Come on, we're playing, might as well." So I was like, "Sure." But prior to these past few days of activity where I've been playing, trying to de-rust, Osu was really the furthest thing on my mind. I didn't think about the game ever. I've my all my social medias are very detached from Osu, and 90% of the people I talk to nowadays either have quit Osu or never even played in the first place. So, as for what I have to say right now, I don't really have any huge lingering sentiments. I feel like I would need to be a lot more involved with the game, maybe be more involved in the exact state of the game in order to give an answer that I feel like would be worth giving. But I feel like right now, that is where I stand, where people take Osu way too seriously, and even if they do take it seriously, which is a good thing, they take the wrong elements of it seriously. So, yeah. To help me with this, I reached out to one of those people that I was talking about, friends of mine who have never played the game, and I asked him like, "Hey man, I'm gonna probably be making a video like this, and I will, like, I need, like, are you curious about any questions that you might want answered?" So he quickly whipped these up for me. Shout out my boy. You know who you are. But anyway, so why did you enjoy playing this game as much as you did, especially since it seems like a common trend for a lot of top players to end up hating the game towards the twilight of their careers? So I expanded on this earlier, but I feel like a lot of the allure that Osu has is the fact that it has a ranking and there's PP and it's very objective and there's numbers, and especially when you're a little kid or when you start playing. Well, I don't think everyone starts playing when they're very young, but for young me, for 11-year-old me, Osu was, it was this really cool video game where the video games that I played prior, like let's say like even if I played like COD or anything, like yeah, like I'd be like, okay, like I'm good, but I never really know how good I was. Osu was like, oh my god, I know exactly how good I am. So Osu for me was just fun. It's always been, like if you just play Osu, it has a lot of potential for the game to just be fun. There's no reason for it to be fun. I feel like things are fun because they're fun. But a lot of people, including me, do end up getting a very negative kind of love-hate relationship with the game because you learn facets of it that you just come to hate, right? Where for me, like maybe parts of Osu that I really dislike are maybe, you know, I dislike tournaments, right? I think they're a really, really bad way of determining somebody's skill. I dislike the PP system and how it's kind of just become a joke over the past year or so, where you don't really know. Like Osu rank used to actually be relatively objective, and now it just isn't at all. And also just other parts of the game, like I find it frustrating. If you're high ranked, then it's always great to be, approached by people who want to learn more about you or want advice for the game. I will never turn someone like that away. But I can understand, and it has been for me as well at times, very frustrating. So I feel like the answer to this will just be something very simple. I just feel like it's fun. I feel like it's a fundamental thing. Anyway, someone who is in the realm of top play, what is your impression of the majority of the community? What do you wish was different about people in the community, I'm assuming? I feel like the Osu community is very interesting. Where in the nicest way possible, I feel like it makes a lot of sense why so many top players have been very reclusive. They've not been overly involved with, the player base, especially if you go like a few years back. Nowadays, it feels like there's a lot less of this. But the community to me, it's polarizing. I've met a lot of very important people, like people who I hold dear to me now through this game. But I'd say what is a pretty common consensus is that the community isn't the best that it could be. There's a lot of weird elements to its players and how the community is run and kind of the social stigma that Osu might have. So I feel like maybe what I wish could be different is maybe the scale of the community. I think it'd be nicer for things to be a little bit smaller. Maybe I'm being nostalgic, but I feel like part of what has kind of overcomplicated the process of becoming a good Osu player and what it means to improve has been, clouded by, for instance, tournaments like 5 Digit World Cup. I think 6 Digit World Cup is the thing. And I feel like this kind of, again, I keep on repeating myself, but this esports kind of approach to Osu, I don't think works at all. And also, I just kind of wish that the community had better people in it. It's a bit of a redundant thing to say, but yeah. Anyway, to what extent do you believe in genetics, or more specifically, that one skill ceiling is predetermined? Well, okay. Well, I talked about this. I feel like genetics do play a huge role. I feel like maybe, not. I don't think they're responsible for everything, but I feel like they play a pretty major role in what your general peak is gonna be. Now, if we were to use this hypothetically, let's say that there's this guy, and if we use his predetermined Osu peak, let's say that, like, oh, it can be, well, predetermination is something else. His latent Osu talent might take him to, let's say, rank 200, but obviously if he puts in effort, then he can take that way further. So I feel like genetics has a lot more importance on your lower bound rather than your upper bound. I feel like you can push that as far as you want just from, you know, playing the game properly and dedicating yourself to your craft, if you want to put it like that. So I'd say it's pretty important, but not as important as other people think, but also not completely unimportant as some people think. So yeah. What do you see for the future of Osu since the game's activity has peaked and new rank maps are getting fewer plays? So I think Osu is gonna experience a downward trend in popularity. I feel like the pandemic and what followed, the 2 or 3 or 4 years, were when the game got a lot of popularity and, you know, a lot of people made their accounts, and I feel like now it's gonna, it's gonna start declining again. But I always have faith in this game. I feel like, a few years from now there might be some insane player. All it really takes is for one thing to get super popular in Osu, like maybe some Twitch streamer reacting to it, like Kai Cenat or like Speed. Like if they want to play the game, then like Osu will get popular. So I feel like Osu is not necessarily at an all-time, but it is at a relative, period of irrelevancy. Not to really negate what people are achieving now, because obviously, if anything, it's more impressive for you to strive when less people care about what you're actually performing. But I think the future of the game is, it's hard to think of it as not bright, because again, Osu's just like more and more people are downloading the game and playing, and we're seeing so many new top players, and the game is getting harder and harder, which is always a good thing. So yeah, to what extent did the process of improving at Osu and all the weird quirks of it, like mind block, lack of consistency, how to push skill, affect your mindset towards things in your real life? Okay, so I think you should. Whoa. Okay. Anyway, I feel like a good way to think of the game is to very much detach. Yeah, a very good way to think about the game is to detach your real life from what you're doing on Osu. I will always stand for this. It is never that serious. I feel like having the bad elements of Osu or the bad elements of your life trickle into each other is a very bad thing, and I think you should have enough self-restraint to not allow that to happen. But I think the good things, you should 100% use both ways. Like, I played sports in high school. I played badminton, right? I was on the team, played in a few tournaments here and there, but Osu, I feel like, genuinely did make me even 2 or 3% better, because it was a lot more of a cerebral motor thing, and Osu is too. So I feel like if you think about it like that, then yeah, Osu maybe did affect my real life, and my real life maybe did affect me, where in the periods of time where I had, a busy life, where I was content with other things, I neglected the game. So I feel like the relation does certainly exist, but in terms of quirks like mind block and consistency and skill pushing, no. Because again, as I've said many times, Osu's process of getting better cannot be translated into anything else. Where you can maybe have some overlap in other disciplines like sports and video games, but other video games isn't. But Osu is very very unique in how it makes you kind of work to improve yourself. So yeah. Okay. Very vague, but I think you should immortalize your experience this summer. Describe how it felt for you to rise through the ranks at the beginning when you pushed to UE number one. Maybe shout out your UE boys here at IDK. And all of your pop-ups were either 3-digit, 2-digit, and then you came back again to peak at 20. All right, this next question seems a little bit funny, but yeah, I mean, I feel like just rising through the ranks. I had all of the times that I rose through the rankings, it seems like it was always just this really explosive rise where I like halved my rank in like 2 weeks. This happened when I came back to the game in 2020. I got to 3-digit very quickly. Then it happened in 2021 where I went from like rank at the start of 2021. I believe I was rank 650, and I ended the year rank 38. And I feel like that is a very, it's not a particularly usual thing, but I feel like it felt very nice. It felt like all of what I had been kind of working for had kind of paid off, but it never felt like like that was the end. And I always felt that like I can still play the game if I want to play the game, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I have to keep on playing the game because I've risen through the ranks and now I'm a top player. And as for the UA thing, I mean, that was also a very surreal experience. I've been UA number one for I believe 6 years now, around that, and it feels nice, feels good. I think, think it's think it's nice. It's a good way to kind of represent where I grew up, and it's maybe the weakest form of representation, but a lot of the nicer people that I've met through this game have been people that I met through um this, as in Nazi says, your maybe shout out your UAE boys. So like, always felt nice. They're super, uh, they're super supportive of me, even now, and they always want what's best. And I feel like it's very nice to kind of just have this kind of a good relation with a community like that, which is almost like you're quote unquote forced to interact with them. As for my last peak, which probably will be my last peak ever, it felt very interesting. My peak to rank 20 was it wasn't really cathartic. I always thought where so I peaked rank 38 in 2021. Then for 4.5 years, I didn't peak again. I was constantly beneath that rank when maybe I'm thinking too much into it, but I feel like I myself and maybe a few other people thought that I could potentially take it further, especially considering how much of a role I was on back then. But as I said, inactivity and lack of motivation led to me just regressing way down. So this peak again at rank 20, I feel like it was very important. I think it's probably the most important kind of thing, that most influential relation I've had with Osu, most influential event when it comes to me and Osu, where I could, it made me realize that, you know, ultimately you can really do anything. And I don't think, this is limited to Osu. I don't think this is limited to anything, where if you put your mind to it, if you're properly dedicated, and if you try, then you can literally do anything. Like, that's the greatest thing about the human being, is that you can do whatever you want to. And obviously it's not that serious, but a kind of minor reduced form of that, I feel like, is what I felt when I reached that peak again. And obviously it does suck that I never reached rank 19, so technically I guess I am top 20, but yeah, it was nice. It was a very good feeling. Now the disrespect list. So I was a really edgy kid, right? It's been almost 5 years now. I was 14, 13. I was really edgy. Back then, I had a really negative mindset with Osu. I had a really big ego, and it was because I just didn't know any better. I thought, Osu was really important, and I thought that, being good at this game meant a lot more than it actually does. And I realize now that it doesn't really mean anything. Um, in the sense where it doesn't really make you better than someone else. So the disrespect list, although the disrespect list was a joke, right? It was a thing me and a few of my friends made, and it got really big, and it was really funny. And that period, I feel like it really defined me because since then, like I kind of, or during that time, I kind of had this chip on my shoulder where a lot of people didn't really like me, and I was like, okay, now I have to rise through the ranks. So it was a really stupid way to, find a new drive to play the game or maybe to prove people wrong. When I realize now that I wasn't really proving anybody wrong. Again, it's never that serious. But I feel like if I could go back in time, I wouldn't change a thing. No way. No way. Because it was really funny. So, yeah. What pushed you away from the game? Why'd you stop playing? Did you hit a skill ceiling or you're less interested in the game because you're preoccupied with other things? Well, I've talked about this, but yeah, I mean, I think it is a combination of all of these things where, um, firstly, in 2022, 2023, I had really bad issues with my hands. Even now, I can't really play Osu for long, because I have some issues in the nerves in my left hand. So Osu really does start hurting if I play for more than like 2, 3 hours a day. But yeah, I mean, I thoroughly back then thought that rank 38 was it. I didn't know that I'd come back and peak at rank 20 almost 4 years later. So I thought, that was it basically. And yeah, like I would play the game on and off, but it was never, I'd never seriously play it. And also just as you grow older, you live through more things. Like my last 2 years of high school were really important. I had a few relationships that I was in, then university, and then moving. So as you just grow older, and even now, like I have to think about my future employment, and you just come to realize that Osu isn't really, the most important thing, which is fine. It's fine if it is to you, and it's fine if it isn't, because that is what, separates us. And I feel like every person, that has stopped playing the game, if you ask them this question, I don't think anyone would tell you the same answer. Like, I know a few people who've quit because, because of injury. I've seen people quit because they got frustrated. I've seen people who quit because they thought they peaked. I've seen people who quit because, they just started working or life got busy for them. So I think it's always important for you to have some kind of idea in your mind regarding, what is it that you want to do in terms of Osu. You started Osu when you were ridiculously young, and now you're 20. How do you feel like the community has changed over time? Worst question I'm. So, I believe there was a question here. It was like, what do you wish was different about the community? So I kind of answered a lot of it, there, but I feel like again, this kind of over reliance on or this obsession with esports and communities and doing all that, and less. I feel like there's less, personal. I don't really know how to explain this. It feels like there's less weight to the relations that you make with people now, where there's so many people that play the game and these circles are so big and there's so many people in all of them. So, you just end up having a lot of people that you know, and then it's hard to establish stronger connections with those people, if that makes any sense. I don't really think it does, but I feel like the community has changed drastically, and it is like as I said earlier, it's changed in a way that I don't really appreciate. I don't like it. I don't think it is. I don't think Osu is a game deserving of a community like this. But at the same time, there's wonderful people out there. There's great people. There's great things. Like we're seeing like so many people are doing heat-ups and things like that, and Osu is growing. So ultimately, it's this kind of weird mix where I might not personally like it, but it seems like, for the game, this really was just the best course of action. What? Oh, okay. Oops. I was like, why isn't that playing? Anyway. Alright, last question. Are you happy with what you did in this game? So, I feel like it'd be pretty appropriate to say that I'm very much approaching the end of my playing time. I'm starting to get older. I'm starting to get busier, and the game's just not it's not as fun anymore. So if I had to give just a one word answer, then I'd probably say yes. I think I genuinely think I achieved what I was supposed to achieve, even if it was a very roundabout way of me achieving it with all those bouts of inactivity and all of those personal issues and all of the backlash and all of the other just various things. Like for so long, I played on just a horrible setup. From 2017 to 2020, I played on a laptop where I would have 8 ms. Then I played on a laptop where I would have 3 ms, which is fine. That's playable. 3.6 ms is playable. It was only in April of 2021 where I got a new computer and a 144 hertz monitor, and my input lag went from like 3.6. My input latency went from 3.6 ms to 0.3, and I was on a bigger screen, on a cleaner refresh rate, and the game completely changed, right? So that's also something that I think you should think about, where it's like, how important is equipment? I don't really have any you know any kind of worthwhile opinions regarding that, because I always feel like you should take it in steps. Where I feel like I see people who start off the game with like 360 hertz monitors and Hall effect keyboards. I feel like that can limit any sort of potential improvement that you might have by improving your hardware, which again isn't really, like, it's weird to think about, because like that's a hypothetical thing, and if you start off with that hardware, then maybe all of that improvement is just at the beginning of your game, or it's stretched out over a longer period of time. So I don't know. I think that is a really, it's an uninteresting question. I feel like that is something that I'm not too interested in. But anyway, so I feel like throughout all of my playing time, those 1,000, 2,000 hours, I feel like, yeah, I think I'm content with what I was able to do, and I feel like it is important that ultimately, when it's all said and done, you should feel the exact same way as me, where you feel content more than happy, because happy is a really, I feel like happy is a more active emotion, or maybe one where you hold it to a higher regard than maybe it needs to be, in the sense of what you've achieved on Osu. But if you are content, as in you can walk away from the game, as in you can just never play ever again and be completely satisfied with what you've achieved, then I think you've won. Like, that is ultimately what you. Um, Hello? Okay, I don't know what just happened. Anyway, I feel like if you achieve that state of you know happiness or contentness from what you've achieved, then you've ultimately just achieved what you were supposed to achieve, where you used this game to make your life better than it would be without it. I think that is the number one most important thing that you should always think about when it comes to not just Osu, anything that you do. Where is this actively making my life a good life? And it might be hard for you to, you know, immediately put these things into your mind and view everything inclusive of retrospect, where you're like, how will this impact me? But I feel like you should always have a rough idea, and by the end of it, you should know. Because if you don't know, then I don't know. I don't know what can be done then. But as it stands for me now, I can look back to me from September 2017 till now and think, yeah, I did fine. Like, I think I did the best that I probably could have done. So that's basically what I had to talk about. It's a bit of a weird, maybe uncharacteristic thing, but yeah. Hope you guys learned, anything. And I'm sorry that this wasn't edited. It wasn't edited very well because I just wasn't bothered. I'm not gonna lie to you. All right. So yeah, take care of yourselves, and always remember, Osu is really it's not the end of your life at all. There are so many things that all of you are capable of doing, and Osu might be one of them, but it isn't the only thing. So, yeah, take care of yourselves.